There is a yellow stain on the inside of a toilet bowl that has been there for 6 months. You have scrubbed it with the brush every week. You have tried the blue tablet that goes in the tank. You have used the thick gel cleaner that claims to remove tough stains on the label. You pour it under the rim, let it sit for the time it says to let it sit, scrub it, flush it, and the stain is lighter for about 2 days before it settles back to exactly where it was. You have accepted it as a permanent feature of that toilet, the way you have accepted the rust-coloured ring around the base of the faucet and the grey film that builds up in the grout lines between the tiles, no matter how many times you spray and wipe them. None of those stains are permanent. Every one of them comes out with the same $2 powder, applied in a specific way that my father kept in a cardboard box on the shelf in the utility room for his entire life. The box has a yellow label. It has had the same yellow label since before my father was born. The powder inside it has been available in general stores and hardware stores in this country since the late 1800s. It was a standard household cleaning product in every home across this region through the 1930s and 1940s. Included in household management guides, recommended by homemakers organisations, and used routinely for everything from laundry to kitchen cleaning to bathroom maintenance. Then the post-war chemical industry introduced a generation of synthetic cleaning products, heavily marketed and far more profitable. And this powder gradually disappeared from the conversation, not because it stopped working, but because it stopped being talked about. The companies that replaced it had advertising budgets. This powder had none. The powder is borax, sodium tetraborate decahydrate. $2 for a box large enough to clean every bathroom in your house for 6 months. And I want to show you today not just how to use it, but why it works, because the chemistry is genuinely interesting, and understanding it is what lets you know which stains it is the right tool for and which ones need a different approach. My name is Hope Yoda. I have maintained this property for 30 years. The bathrooms in this house have tile that is 40 years old. The fixtures are original to the house. If those stains were permanent, we would know it by now. They are not permanent, and for the past 3 decades, the powder that handles them has cost me about $4 a year. Let me start with the chemistry, because borax is not a single mechanism cleaner the way most synthetic products are. It works through several overlapping mechanisms simultaneously, which is why it handles such a wide range of stain and soil types without needing a different specialized product for each one. The first mechanism is alkalinity. Borax dissolves in water to produce a moderately alkaline solution with a pH of approximately 9.3. Most common bathroom soils, soap scum, body oils, hard water deposits, and the organic compounds in urine residue are either acidic or neutral in their chemistry, and an alkaline environment chemically breaks down the molecular bonds that hold these soils to the surface. This is the same principle behind most commercial bathroom cleaners, which are also alkaline, but borax achieves it without the synthetic surfactants, artificial fragrances, and proprietary chemical compounds that make those products more expensive and, in some cases, more irritating to the people using them. The second mechanism is mild abrasion. Borax crystals, while not as aggressively abrasive as baking soda or calcium-based cleansers, provide enough physical texture to assist in loosening surface deposits when worked in with a damp cloth or a brush. This mechanical component matters for the type of staining in grout lines and on textured tile surfaces where the soil is physically lodged in the texture of the material rather than simply sitting on a smooth surface. The third mechanism is antimicrobial action. Borax is toxic to the organisms that cause mold and mildew, disrupting their ability to reproduce and eventually eliminating established colonies when it is applied in sufficient concentration and allowed to remain in contact with the affected surface for an adequate period. This antimicrobial property is what makes borax effective not just for removing existing mold staining, but for preventing recurrence when a light residue is left on the surface after cleaning. The same property that makes it effective for the lawn and soil applications I have covered in previous videos on this channel. The fourth mechanism is specific to mineral and rust staining. Borax in solution forms complexes with many metal ions, a process called chelation, that holds the mineral compounds in suspension rather than allowing them to reprecipitate onto the surface. This is the mechanism behind its effectiveness on the iron-based staining, the orange and rust-coloured rings that form in toilets and around faucet bases in homes with iron in the water supply, and on the white calcium and magnesium deposits, the hard water buildup, that forms on shower walls and around fixture bases in homes with hard water. Now I want to address something directly before I show you the method, because there is a version of the borax cleaning method going around online right now that has caused some confusion and some frustration, and I think clearing it up saves you a failed attempt. Most of what you will find if you search for borax cleaning is instructions to mix borax with warm water and use that solution as a spray or a wipe. That approach works for light soil and for surface maintenance. It does not work well for established staining of the kind you are most likely dealing with if you have been trying to remove a toilet ring or grout staining for months. The reason is contact time and concentration. A dilute solution sprayed on a surface and wiped immediately has a fraction of the contact time that the stain took to develop, and a fraction of the concentration needed to break down a mineral or organic deposit that has been building for weeks or months. The method I'm going to show you uses borax in paste form, applied directly to the stain surface, allowed to sit in full contact with the stain for a period that matches the severity of what you are trying to remove. The difference in result between the spray and wipe method and the paste and dwell method is significant, and it is the difference between thinking borax works and thinking it does not. Here is the paste. Combine 3 tablespoons of borax with enough warm water to make a thick paste, roughly the consistency of toothpaste, which is typically about 1 tablespoon of water. Stir thoroughly until no dry powder remains. If you are dealing with a particularly stubborn mineral or rust stain, add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice to the paste. The citric acid in the lemon juice adds a second chemical mechanism, mild acid chelation, that works specifically on calcium-based and iron-based mineral stains in a complementary way to borax's alkaline chelation. And the combination of the two approaches the same stain from 2 different chemical directions simultaneously. This is the version my father used for the worst of the iron staining that came up in this county's water supply, and it is the one I use now for anything that has been sitting long enough to become a real project. Apply the paste directly to the stained surface and spread it to cover the stain completely and extend about ½ inch beyond its visible edge in every direction. Do not wet the surface first, because you want the paste to sit in direct contact with the dry stain rather than diluting into surface water. For a toilet bowl ring, apply the paste directly above and below the ring line and use the brush to spread it around the full circumference, keeping the water level as low as possible by pushing water around the trap before applying. For grout lines, work the paste into the grout with an old toothbrush, filling the recessed grout channel completely. For fixture bases and faucet surrounds, mould the paste around the base of the fixture and press it into contact with the stained area. Now let it sit. This is the step most people shorten, and the reason most cleaning attempts fail. The dwell time is where the chemistry happens, and it needs enough time to complete the reaction with the stain compounds before you scrub and rinse. For light buildup of a few weeks, 30 minutes is sufficient. For a stain that has been developing for months, an hour minimum and up to 3 hours for severe cases. For rust staining from iron-bearing water that has been accumulating for years, I apply the paste in the evening and rinse in the morning, allowing an overnight dwell that handles mineral deposits that nothing with a shorter contact time will touch. During the dwell time, do not add water, do not spray anything else over the paste, and do not disturb the contact between the paste and the stain surface. You are giving the alkalinity and chelation time to do their work. Interrupting that is the most common reason people report that this did not work, when in fact the method works perfectly with patience. After the dwell time, work the paste with a brush or a damp cloth, in firm, circular motions. You should see the stain material beginning to release. Rinse thoroughly and inspect. For most stains, the result at this point is complete or close to complete removal. For the most severe established staining, A second application of fresh paste with another full dwell period before scrubbing produces the final result. I want to walk you through each specific stain type and the exact approach because some situations call for small adjustments to the basic method. The toilet bowl ring is typically either an iron staining problem, which produces an orange-red ring, or a manganese staining problem, which produces a dark brown or black ring, or both combined with mineral calcium and magnesium buildup from hard water. The borax and lemon juice paste handles all of these. Lower the water level in the bowl before applying by pushing water around the trap with the brush, which empties most of the bowl. Apply the paste above and below the ring and across the entire ring. Let it sit for a minimum of 2 hours for a ring that has been there for more than a month. Scrub firmly and flush. For a ring that has been there for 6 months or longer, the overnight application produces better results than any amount of additional scrubbing with a shorter dwell time. Grout staining is typically a combination of soap scum, mildew, and the pigmented compounds from cleaning products themselves, many of which leave residue in the porous grout surface that attracts and holds further soil. Apply the borax paste to the grout lines with a toothbrush, working it firmly into the grout channel. Let it sit for an hour for moderate staining and 2 hours for grout that has been discolored for a long time. Scrub with the toothbrush along the grout line direction, not across it, which lifts the material out of the channel rather than pushing it deeper. Rinse well. The result on most grout after a single treatment is a significant lightening. For grout that has been severely neglected, a second treatment after the surface has dried brings it the rest of the way. Soap scum on shower walls and glass is primarily calcium stearate and magnesium stearate. The compounds formed when the fatty acids in soap react with the calcium and magnesium ions in hard water. The alkaline mechanism of borax breaks down these compounds effectively. Apply the paste to the scum-covered surface, spread it evenly, and let it sit for 30 to 45 minutes. Work it with a damp, non-scratch scrubbing pad in circular motions. The soap scum will dissolve into the paste and rinse away. For shower glass specifically, a final wipe with a cloth dampened with white vinegar after rinsing the borax removes any residual mineral film and leaves the glass clear. Do not mix the vinegar and the borax during application because the acid and the alkalinity neutralize each other. Use the vinegar only as a final rinse after the borax has been thoroughly washed off. Rust staining around faucet bases, in sinks and around drain flanges comes from iron in the water supply and from the oxidation of old metal fixture components. This is where the lemon juice addition to the paste matters most, because iron staining responds to acid chelation more than to alkaline treatment alone. Pack the borax and lemon paste around the stained area, let it sit for at least 2 hours and work it firmly with a brush. The iron compounds will release into the paste and rinse away with it. For staining on chrome or polished nickel fixtures, use a soft cloth rather than a brush to avoid scratching the finish and work gently. Mildew and mold on tile and grout, which appears as black or dark grey staining in grout lines and in the corners of shower enclosures, responds to borax through both the alkaline mechanism and the antimicrobial mechanism I described earlier. Apply the paste, let it sit for 2 hours minimum, scrub and rinse. The important difference with mold staining versus other stains is the follow-up application. After rinsing the paste and allowing the surface to dry, apply a thin layer of plain borax dissolved in water, about 2 tablespoons per cup of water, to the grout lines and shower corners, and do not rinse it off. Let it dry in place. The thin borax residue left on the surface inhibits mold regrowth by maintaining an inhospitable environment for mold organisms. Reapply this maintenance layer monthly, and you will find that the mold staining does not return at the rate it did before. Hard water staining on toilet fixtures. Around the underside of the rim where the flush jets build up calcium scale, and on the exterior of the toilet where water droplets have been evaporating for years and leaving their mineral content behind. Responds well to the basic borax paste, without the lemon addition, unless the deposits are extremely heavy. The alkaline dissolution of calcium compounds is sufficient for most hard water scale when given adequate dwell time. Let me also tell you what borax does not do well, because I am always honest with you, and knowing the limits of a tool is as important as knowing its strengths. Borax does not bleach staining. If you have a stain where the colouring has been absorbed into the material itself, dye staining from coloured products for example, rather than surface deposits sitting on or in the material, borax will not whiten it. That type of staining requires an oxidizing agent, a hydrogen peroxide-based product, or an oxygen bleach, which work through a different mechanism that breaks down the dye molecule rather than lifting a surface deposit. Borax does not work as quickly as commercial chemical cleaners on light surface soil, where contact time is not the limiting factor. If you are wiping down a surface that was cleaned last week and just needs a light refresh, a spray bottle of dilute borax solution works fine, but is not dramatically faster than a commercial spray cleaner. The advantage of borax over commercial cleaners shows most clearly on established staining, where the contact time can be extended and where the chelation and antimicrobial mechanisms have time to work. On a quick wipe down, the difference is less pronounced. Borax should not be used on natural stone surfaces, marble, granite, or limestone countertops and tile, because the alkalinity can etch the surface of calcium-based stone over time. For natural stone, a pH-neutral cleaner is always the correct choice. Let me put the cost picture together plainly, because I think it matters and I want you to see the full number. A standard box of 20 mule team borax weighs £4 and costs approximately $4 to $5 at any grocery or hardware store. At the quantities used in this cleaning method, that box represents enough product for 12 to 18 months of complete bathroom maintenance for a typical household with 2 bathrooms. The commercial bathroom cleaners that most households buy in multiple specialized versions, toilet bowl cleaner, grout cleaner, soap scum remover, mold and mildew spray, hard water remover, represent a combined annual spend in most households of $60 to $120 per year. The borax box represents $4 to $5 for the same or better results across all of those applications, because the chemistry addresses all of them through overlapping mechanisms, rather than requiring a different product for each stain type. The knowledge of how one inexpensive product covers a wide range of household needs, not through marketing claims, but through actual chemistry that has been understood and applied for over a century, is exactly the kind of practical household knowledge that my family has held on to through generations, where buying a different expensive product for every problem was simply not an option. And that still holds up today, when it absolutely is an option, but makes significantly less financial sense. This is the thinking that runs through everything in the books: the household chemistry, the cleaning methods, the preservation knowledge, the garden and healing plant information that my family has used on this property for generations. The link is in the description, or find everything on our channel. Try this on your worst bathroom stain this weekend, the one you have given up on. Make the paste, apply it, and let it sit longer than feels comfortable, because the patience is the method. Then tell me in the comments what the stain was, how long it had been there, and what the result looked like. I read every single one. And if your mother or grandmother had her own household cleaning method using borax or anything similar that has been forgotten in your family, tell me about it. Those inherited methods are exactly what this channel is about, and I would genuinely like to know what yours was. Next time, I'm going to show you the same powder applied to a completely different problem. The specific laundry method my mother used that got out stains that commercial stain removers left behind, using borax and one other ingredient that costs almost nothing. Subscribe so you do not miss it. A $2 box with a yellow label that has been sitting on that same shelf since before most of us were born. That is how the bathroom got cleaned on this property for 40 years before commercial cleaners existed to replace it. And that is how it still gets cleaned today, in any house that remembers.